we have a lot of, anger sometimes and, disappointment at, the state of our British politics. But you know what? That's a good thing sometimes. It's okay to be angry at your politicians, at your government. That's good. That can be a good thing because most of those times, these can be good motivators for change. And there is a lot to be proud about our parliamentary politics. Does it have some flaws? Yes, absolutely. I will be the first one openly to be admitting, our democracy isn't exactly perfect, And that's just talking sort of about the House of Commons. I mean, first past the post needs to go desperately. We need to consign that very, very much to the wheelie bin of history, where we can sort of get on properly and elect MPs in a good, fair, and democratic way. Now, hopefully, we'll be able to do that potentially quite soon. I've talked a lot on certainly my Good Morning Walks and in other videos about how much the PR movement is now in a position. Not only is it far more stronger than it was back in 2012 when we had the referendum on AV voting, but also there's grassroots support, there's a momentum that just was not there back in 2012. And remember, this constitutional slog that we are going to have to change this is going to be a slog. It's going to be an absolute, fight. It really is. But it is one worth having. What's the saying? Anything good worth doing is, worth doing, worth doing good and worth fighting for, shall we say. But of course, that's of course the House of Commons. And yes, it's not perfect. But hey, at least it's not the House of Lords. And oh boy, are we going to talk about the House of Lords today. So before we do go talking about the House of Lords, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link where you can, again, support the channel that way. There's the one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. There's the YouTube thank you button, and of course, the Pony Club as well. You can join as well, which helps support the channel. Now, House of Lords, my word, if anyone out there generally is serious about supporting the House of Lords, then I recommend you do this test. Find anyone, I mean anyone, or an American, because they're a good, they're a good, sort of, comparison. Because, like I say, a lot of people have sort of compared, or at least the go-to comparison of our politics, of the potential change is very much like what the US is. Their almost first choice is to go, oh, look at the US system. But of course, that's when you have to talk about the House of Lords. And trust me, if you want to completely get rid of your sheen or any admiration for the Lords, just start trying to describe it to someone who is not living in the UK. Because first of all, you have to describe about how it's at least about 600 plus, 800 plus people, 800 now sitting in the House of Lords for this. That's how many people there are in. And remember, in the US Senate, their second elected house, it's only 100. How can the US, an elected second house body, get by perfectly well with only 100 senators, where we have 800? And that's not even the worst part, because then you have to start talking about the lifers, the people who get ennobled and are then there for life until they die. And then you have to talk about the 96 members currently of the House of Lords who are there because of ennoblement, because their ancestors just happened to fight for the correct king at one point, or one of their ancestors, shall we say, bunged a bit of money to a former prime minister, although not a recent prime minister. We're talking, a long, long time ago, maybe to help, fund their campaign, shall we say. So they're there for life. And what happens? There they are there. They sit there until they die. And then what happens? All those elected peers then get together as voters and the constituencies to elect the new lord in that line, which, bear in mind, is only male heirs. So, like I say, trust me, if you start to try and explain the House of Lords to to anyone who is not in the UK, this should remove all the sheen from it. And then, of course, there's, shall we say, in the House of Lords, again, when people get elected or ennobled, you literally have a collection of the good, the bad, and the ugly. You generally have a lot of good people who are there because they served, the public. There are people who are, scientists who have done all kinds of, actual good thing and have earned their place. And yes, getting rid of the House of Lords does mean getting rid of all that expertise that is sitting there. But that is no excuse to keep it there. We must really wipe it away. And then, of course, you've got people like the recent Michelle, is it Michelle Maloney? Yes, Baroness Monroe. Certainly something that, again, David Cameron is probably regretting right now because he put her in the House of Lords. Sort of, and her PPE contract scandal that is going on currently. And she's taken a leave of absence to try and prove her innocence. Well, I'll tell you now, the evidence doesn't look good. And of course, Rishi Sunak's response was, I'm shocked. Not, there will be an immediate investigation to find out whether these allegations are true or not. Just, I am very shocked. And bear in mind, there have been 2 attempts by previous prime ministers in recent times to try and reform the House of Lords. Tony Blair got rid of a lot of the lifelong peers, but unfortunately, because, well, the House of Lords is quite useful to whoever prime minister just happens to be in number 10, because it's really good to sort of, shall we say, be something to give out, candies and sweets and nuts to get, people on your side. Unfortunately, he lost interest in it and didn't follow through with the rest of the reforms. Nick Clegg in the Tory Lib Dem coalition tried to do it as well. But unfortunately, there was a Tory rebellion, which pretty much killed any chance of doing those reforms. So there have been attempts very, very much in the recent past. And we also must point out that there are even lords themselves sitting in the House of Lords who recognize the need for reform and that something needs to be done. So it needs to be done. And yes, it will be a constitutional slog, but most of those criticisms really are coming from Labour peers who really don't want to lose their cushy positions. Let's face it. So this is very, very much something that Labour needs to tackle going in. Any party needs to seriously start to consider just getting rid of the House of Lords and just making it, as we've said before, a chamber of regional representatives that is elected by proportional representation. And this is something people on the left should also get behind, because if you don't get behind it, the right wing will get behind it, and then they'll make it a who knows what they could potentially make it. So bear in mind, guys, if you are not involved in this conversation, who knows what a awful thing it could be replaced with if the left just decides not to fight this battle or just ignore it completely. So please, please, please do pay attention to this, and please do be prepared to fight for some serious Lords reform, because it desperately, desperately needs doing. And we need to really get rid of this absolute embarrassment, quite frankly, that is a constant disappointment, really, in British politics. And yes, I will say sometimes I have said I have been glad that we've had the House of Lords, because, as I said, there's a lot of people with a lot of expertise, which is why we've had and seen over the past couple of years good arguments about Brexit and actual proper discussions about exiting the European Union and what it actually meant happened in the Lords because there were people there with that expertise. But as I said at the beginning, there is no reason to keep those people in charge or even in power. It's about time that we completely just abolished the Lords and replaced it with a second electoral chamber. Every other country does it very successfully. Why can't we? So, as always, guys, like I say, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.